Good evening, everyone. It's truly a humbling experience to join this global gathering in honor of Rabbeinu, Harav Avigdor HaKohen ben Yisrael Miller, Zechet Tzadik U'Kodesh Uvracha, Schusu Yogan Aleinu, as we try to learn from him on his 19th Yartzeiht, with appreciation to Chazak and Simchas Chaim Publishing, and with the vehicle of TorahAnytime.com, whose unprecedented Habatzas Torah, especially during these trying times, should be appreciated by everyone. It's truly an honor to join Harav Brag, Harav Goldwasser, Harav Ben Chaim, and Rav Gindi in the giving of Mila de Hesped to one of the greatest people of the last generation. Sponsoring this evening is also chickensforshabbos.com, which is an ability to help out over 300 Malamdim families of Agunois and Grushos. And all the money goes straight for food, medical needs, tutorial help, and much more for these families. chickensforshabbos.com. And I would like to dedicate this year also to Refuah Shalema for another great man of our generation, Harav Label Katz, who's fighting for his life as we speak. Harav Aryeh ben Chayesara, he should have Refuah Shalema, B'seich Sheichel Yisrael. In the brief amount of time that I speak with you this evening, I hope that I should inspire you like Rav Miller inspired me. I hope that these 15 minutes, 20 minutes should change your life the way being introduced to Rav Miller changed mine. You know, it says about Rav Meir that he was called Meir because Meir Einei Yisrael. He illuminated the eyes of Yisrael. And the same thing it says about Mordechai many years before. Mordechai ben Yair, and the Gemara Megillah says, Ben Sheheir Einei Yisrael b'Svilasai. He enlightened the eyes of Klal Yisrael with his tefillah. I've truly found Rav Miller to be a great illuminator. Here I was, a young teenager in Yeshiva of Staten Island, learning by Rav Moshe, and I was introduced to Rav Miller tapes. The series in those days were in the first 100 of his 1,000 tapes, more 1,000 plus tapes. And at that time he issued a challenge that anybody that listens to 100 of his tapes can consider themselves an idealist. And I remember I had a pillow speaker, which I kept under my pillow, and in the night after a day of learning, I used to listen to the tapes. And it would enthrall me. It would open my eyes. Because Rav Miller explained that here you could have a person who sits and learns and does mitzvahs, but ein elikim kol mizimaisav. Hashem is nowhere in his thoughts. He's learning, but he's not thinking about Hashem. La'asais nachas ruach liyotzreinu. And he would challenge us. He would tell us, don't forget, it says, Ma Hashem elikecha shayol me'imach kiyim liyira. What does Hashem ask from you but that you should fear him, and he would translate yira as to see him. He would tell us that it says, Soif Davar Akol Nishma, at the end of Koheles. Shlomo Melech said after everything is tabulated, Es Elikim Yira Ves Mitzvahs Shma, see Hashem, and then do His commandments because the boss says so. Ki Zeh Kol Adam, that's everything. He said if an old man that only ate day-old bread and an old herring would tell you, there's nothing else, you wouldn't listen. But Shlomo HaMelech, with 1,000 wives, with his gastronomic opulence, with his rolling vineyards, with his shadim and his shadais, he tells you, but this is it. To be aware of Hashem. He would challenge us that when we studied as a child that Mother Nature did this and Mother Nature provided that, he said, that's just a euphemism. It's something invented because they didn't want to say creator, but when it says Mother Nature, it's either accident did it or the Creator did it. He made us think. Oh, how he would say, imagine if somebody told you that on 14th Avenue there was a tree that has fruit with wax wrapping around it. Everybody would run, everybody would say, it's a miracle! And then he would say, a miracle? The peel on the fruit is much more of a miracle than a wax wrapper. And he would wax eloquently about a peel. He would say, look how it's perfectly calibrated. It's just the right texture that you could bite into it with your teeth without it hurting your teeth, without it scraping your gums. Yet it's tough enough that the insect cannot penetrate it. It's smooth enough that you should enjoy munching on it, but it's tough enough to be water repellent. And how he would say, much different than wax paper. The peel was a color indicator. If it was green, you don't eat it. If it becomes red, then it's ripe and ready to eat, right? Just like a watermelon. It's nice and red until where it's green, that's a sour stomach. And then he said, and what do you do with, what is with this wrapper? You throw it away? No. It's chock full of vitamins and minerals. And then he would say, oh, and the fruit has an awareness that the eater can't reach up and get it, so it releases it from the tree. But it only releases it in the tree exactly when it's ready to be eaten. Morabu Masach Hashem, he would tell us, Kulam b'chachma asisa. It's all with plan and purpose. What do you keep in your pocket? What do you keep in your pocket? Your wallet? Your keys? Your credit cards? The miller kept in his pocket seeds. There's seeds. Who keeps seeds in their pocket? Aye, but how he said what you could see from a seed. He said, take a seed in your hand. Feel it. There's no pulsation whatsoever. It's dead. It's brittle. It's dry. But he says, look in Bereshis when it says, Asher zaroi voi lemineyu. Each fruit has a seed in it. It talks about the seed. You know, it doesn't talk about the planets, but it talks about a seed. A seed is a coupon. Buy one, get a tree free. But get many trees free. It's an amazing thing. You take the seed, he would say. You take the seed. If you put a battery in a flashlight, if you put it upside down, it doesn't work. But no matter how you put the seed in, it's a mini computer. The roots go down. The plant comes up. And he would say, different seeds. He would say, study the orange pip. The orange pit is dry. It has nothing on the surface. Why? Because it's bitter. So we're not afraid that the eater will eat it. But a watermelon has like a slime on it. You'll feel it and you'll say, yeah, the watermelon is wet. But he pointed out that what's on the watermelon seed is not wet, it's slimy. It has its own slime on it. So because it's edible, but Hashem doesn't want it to be eaten, it should slip out of your hand in order it should be there to have more watermelons. He would talk about if you go out on the south, You see on southerners' houses, they have watermelons growing by the steps of their house. He said, who would plant watermelons at the steps of the porch? But he says in the hot days, before they had air conditioning, the family would go outside, they would sit on the stoop, they would have watermelon, and the seeds would slip out and would grow watermelons. He says, you look at a seed, and you see the plan and the purpose of a creation. How did he make us think about everything? He said, Reishis Chochma Yiras Hashem. The first wisdom is to learn to see Hashem in creation. He would say, look at a tree. Don't you see that the branches are all staggered on every tree? Why? Because if the branches would be one on top of another, then the leaves on the lower branch would not get the photosynthesis of the sun because the upper branch would be blocking it. And if the branches are one on top of another, we wouldn't have shade. So Hashem made all the trees staggered. It's a marvelous. He would tell us, look up in the sky. The pasuk says, Su einechem l'marayin, u'ru'u mi bara eila. Look up in the sky and see who created these things. He said, look, the sun is 93 million miles away. 93 million miles away. Do you know any crane that could have put it there from 93 million miles away? Who put the sun? It just popped there? Popped there? What are you talking about? How could the sun pop there? It's so perfectly calibrated. A little closer we would be fricazine. A little further it would be the ice age. Everywhere on the globe we look, we don't have to squint. It's the perfect measure of light and the perfect ability to warm us. See Hashem. He said that's the purpose of life. Ma Hashem shayel me'imach kiyam liyira. What does Hashem ask from you? But that you should see Him. That's the purpose of life. He would charge us to be mindful in our mitzvahs and not superficial. He would say, think about Shabbos. Don't just eat the cholent and the chicken soup. But think, you could enjoy it, but think, why am I eating this? I'm celebrating that the world wasn't always here. It didn't come about from a big bang, but it was created in 7 days. Hashem rested on the seventh day. That's why I'm celebrating. He says, pass a mezuzah at least once in a while and hear its subliminal message that Hashem is watching us. Put on the tefillin and l'kol ha'pachas l'mantia teiras Hashem b'ficha. It's a message in our ears. Are you learning Torah today? He says the yamak is Yarei Malka, to fear the king. He said stop and think when you do mitzvahs. Don't just do it mindlessly. This is what Rav Miller taught the world. He woke us up. He illuminated us. He would tell us, every day, think a minute about Olam Haba. A minute. You know, he did things in increments of less than a minute. They say in Chaim Berlin, he would take a nap during the day on the desk in the office for 27 and a half minutes. The discipline that Rav Miller had was something that we can't understand. He thought he had like 70 Siddharim when he took his 1 hour walk. When somebody wanted to walk with him, what he gave up to walk with somebody. And he did things. He used to take a pasuk and go over the pasuk over and over. That's why he has in the Sefer on Tefillah so many ideas on each pasuk. He would go over a pasuk over. We marvel at sometimes how he took apart a pasuk, but he would work on it and go over the pasuk over and over and over again. But he charged us, think a minute a day about Olam Haba. That this world is only a corridor for the next world. And am I preparing for it? He would say, teach children about Olam Haba. Teach children gently about Gehenna. Oh, how he would say to train children. He would say, give your child is of age, a little child. Say, put a saucer in the child's hand, not hot water, and say, bring this glass to Tati. Bring this glass to Mommy. Train a child from a very young age to be Mekayim Kibbud of Aim. L'man yarichen yamecha, l'man yitav lach. Oh, yeah. Rabbi Isai, he said, he addressed our doubts. He opened our eyes. You know, he would say, it says, Dam ala hoshiv lapikairis. Know what to answer in apikairis. So his question was, what do you mean? You shouldn't be dealing with apikairis. Stay away from an apikairis. So he says, no. Know how to answer the apikairis in you. Know how to answer those whispering doubts that you have. Learn how to answer the things that trouble you. Don't dodge them. Don't bury them. Enlighten yourself. So he would say, for example, somebody says, oh, I'm only a Jew because if I was born a Jew, but if I would be a Christian, then I would be a devout Christian. How do I know? Without studying Christianity, how do I know? Maybe Christianity is right. So he says, no, you don't have to study Christianity. You don't have to. And he introduced us in his Sefer, I believe, Awake My Glory, in a chapter of parallels. He says, all you have to do is study parallels. He says, you want to know about Christianity? Just look at the blood libel. Look at churches studied across the European continent. Huge edifices still there, like St. Thaddeus, which are named after children allegedly slaughtered by the Jews for their blood on Passover. Now we know that there's no such a thing. We know it's so preposterous, and yet the religion believes it. They name churches after. What kind of religion? We know that's a falsehood. That's parallels. Or he said, look at the Crusaders. In the name of the Holy Cross, they raped, they pillaged. Could any religion of any worth do such a thing? And he said the same thing about Islam. He says, look at Islam. Look at the Quran. It's riddled with mistakes. They made a mistake. We know that it says, also called Tzaddik v'Tzaddik Lahanchul Shaya Ilam is 310 worlds. They translate it wrong. They translate it as 310 maidens. Or he said, look at the fact they buried the wrong person in Shechem. They had Haman down in Mitzrayim. It's just full of mistakes. Looking at these parallels, we see this is what he did. He illuminated us. Now, of course, in 15, 20 minutes, I can encapsulate a man who illuminated our lives every second. A man whose usage of time was so awesome that his Rebbetzin testified that for over 60 years he didn't open the refrigerator. I can't say that for 60 minutes. 60 years! She gave him 3 meals and that's it. A man who, even by his grandchildren's weddings, he came and he held the coat in his hand. And they said, Zaidi, why don't you put the coat down and make yourself comfortable? He says, I have important people waiting for me in the house. And they said, Zaidi, the important people are all here, your family. He says, no, Abai and Rava is waiting for me in the house. That's the way he lived his life. Incredible discipline. So Rabbi say, you know, there is out there, from his wisdom, his tapes, they are on iPods, they're available on CDs. They're still as vibrant and current as they were in the 70s. You have his wonderful Svarim, Awake My Glory, Sing a Righteous. You have the wonderful Svarim, Rejoice O Youth. You have his Sefer on Tefillah. You have now the new Svarim that the family is coming out, and the leaflets that the family is putting out, and the iPods you could get with Svarim on it, Chayvis HaVavashir, Mrs. Yesharim, Hesped HaNefesh, all kinds of Svarim, and on all of the Yom Tovim, and it's really Meir Einei Yisrael. It'll change your life and the life of your family. You'll never look at the world again. He said, to say 100 brachas. He says, why is 100 brachas a way to have Yiras Shamayim? Why is it that Ma Hashem Elokecha Shayim Me'imakim Liyir is connected to 100 brachas? So you'd say, he would challenge us. He used to be Bozo the Clown with a big red nose. He would say, if I tell you to mention bozo 100 times, pass me the bozo, bozo this, bozo that, there's the bozo. At the end of the night, you'd be bozoed, you'd be dreaming about bozo. He said, that's the way you should say Hashem's name in brachas. Baruch atah Hashem, Mekadosh Shabbos, Baruch Hashem, Reifei Chalei Amo Yisrael, Baruch atah Hashem, Shakol Niyabidvar, Baruch atah Hashem, Hazan Zakal. If you say 100 times Hashem, you'll be Hashem. That's what you want. You want to be Yiras Hashem. He wanted us to aspire to Bechol Drachecha Da'ehu. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. That's what He wanted. He wanted us in all our ways. He wanted us to live as Hashem Alikecha Tira. What does that mean? And it's a mitzvah say to fear Hashem. He wanted that our decisions in life should be, will Hashem want this or not? The decision making. He wanted us. We say Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Tzvi. What does Tzvi stand for? Tzadik be'emunasa yichya. He wanted us to learn from him that to live with Hashem. Oh yeah, we would challenge us to be mindful of our davening. He would say, you want to change your davening? Before you daven, every tefillah, think about one thing to say thank you in Maidim. Before you daven. Prepare yourself. It could be a small thing. It could be, I found money for the meter. It could be, I liked the spaghetti and meatballs. It could be, I had an easy time with the children. He would tell us to prepare. He would tell us, make sure to have kavanah in the first bracha, because that's the password. The password to get into the palace is Elikei Avraham, Elikei Yitzchak, Elikei Yaakov. He would tell us that people that don't believe in the resurrection don't get Tchias HaMeisim, because if you don't believe in it, you don't get it, as the Gemara says in Sanhedrin. So he would say, therefore we should say with true kavanah, V'ne'eman ato lahacha yois meisim. So therefore, I want to ask the Rebbe in Shemayim, humbly, not myself, who am I, but in the schus of this tremendous rabbin, that he should be a Melech Yosher for his wonderful family, for all of us, all of Klal Yisrael, especially in these trying times, that there should be no more people suffering from this virus. Those that are sick should get better. We should be healthy and not have any scares. And once again, I thank TorahAnytime.com, Chazak, and Chaim Publishing, Simchas Chaim Publishing, and may we be Zoicha, that as we say in Uvalatzion, V'hachein levavam meilecha, may we fix our hearts towards you, Hashem. As we say in Ezra, V'dabek libeinu b'mitzvaysecha, may we attach our hearts to your Torah. As we say in Shema Esrei, V'achazirenu, Hashivenu avinu l'sorsecha, v'karvenu malkeinu l'avodesecha. Bring us close to your service, Hashem. That Rav Miller should be proud of all of us, and that we should give nachas ruach liyitzreinu, and may his holy neshama have a greater and greater aliyah in Shemayim, and once again be a Melech Yosher for all of us in Atzlacha, in Ruchnias and Gashmias, and may we all soon be reunited with him in the Bias Gal Tzedek and the Tchias HaMeisim b'mhera v'yameinu.